Welcome to Let's React to all of the new subclass changes and let's figure out what the best builds are going to be for Final Shape. Starting off, already see we're jumping into Stasis first. I'm going to kind of jump through, read the bullet points. So update to a large portion of the Stasis ability suite, including our new keyword Frost Armor. We knew that was coming. The near future of Well of Radiance and Water Dawn to Final Shape, so they're probably getting nerfed. Well, is at least getting nerfed. A subclass by subclass breakdown of bound changes to abilities, aspects, and fragments, including but not limited to those included with Prismatic. Okay, nice. All right, so we'll get to know some Prismatic stuff and just some other stuff. So Stasis subclass, again, we're just going to kind of go over the bullet points. So new Frost Armor keyword. You are fortified by layers of durable stasis matter, reducing incoming damage. Frost Armor damage resistance grows stronger as you gain stacks, reduces PV damage components by 4.5% per stack, and then 2% per stack per player. So 4.5%, they don't say how much you can stack unless they talk about it up here at the top. Oh, five, okay, you get 5 stacks for Frost Armor. By default, you can build to a maximum number of 5 stacks that lasts 9 seconds. But with the reworked Whisper of Ram fragment, Frost Armor maximum lifetime is increased 13 seconds and can build up to 8 stacks. So Whisper of Ram is getting a rework. You're going to get 5 stacks at max. That'll be a 22.5% damage reduction, which is not as strong as Woven Mel. But if you take Whisper of Rhyme and get the 8 stacks, you'll get a 36% damage reduction. So that could potentially be very good. This is just going to be kind of Woven Mel for stasis, which is nice. I mean, I guess it kind of does need something like that. So yeah, I mean, that's cool. So Whisper of Ram reworked. No longer grants Stasis Shard Overshield when collecting Stasis Shard. Now increases the maximum duration and stack of your Frost Armor. So yeah, that's what they kind of talk about up there. But all right, next up we have all harvest aspects. This is the stuff that can create the crystals and stuff. So added a new behavior. While Grim Tectonic and Glacier Harvest is equipped, Stasis Shards grant a small amount of health and a stack of Frost Armor. Okay, large Stasis Shards from Grim Harvest grant more health and Frost Armor stacks. All harvest aspects now have standardized cooldown with a large number of shards created very quickly. In the Tectonic Harvest, it would now create a stasis shard when shattering a frozen target in addition to shattering stasis crystals. So Tectonic Harvest got a buff, and now just every time you pick this up, you're going to get Frost Armor and a small amount of health, which is crazy good. I think that's actually a pretty huge buff for stasis shards builds. I mean, we are going to have to see the cooldown, the standardized cooldown that they're changing now. But I mean, if you can still make a lot of these, you know, having this Frost Armor up at all times and healing from it, I think that could be pretty good. The next up, we have Renewal Grass, so replace the generic damage resistance with Frost Armor. Okay, so on entering the Dustfield volume, you and your allies gain a stack of Frost Armor about every 0.9 seconds. When in the volume, additional Frost Armor stack is granted. So that's okay. That's actually pretty good. You're going to get even more damage reduction if you do pair that with the fragment to give you damage reduction. They might actually change that once we get down to give you Frost Armor. But I mean, getting your Frost Armor stacks in the grenades pretty good. Now, Balladors replace Stasis Shard Overshield with Frost Armor when you activate your Rift or use your Winter's Wrath Shatter attack. So, does this only give you one? Because I feel like if you could stand in the grenade and get max pretty quickly, I feel like this should probably give you max armor. It probably does. They just don't say it. I just really hope this just doesn't give you one stack. But like I said, I imagine it probably gives you max. But if not, I still feel like these are going to be kind of bad. So Whisper of Chill, Stasis Weapon, Final Blows have a chance to create a Stasis Shard. Okay, that's nice. This is just a brand new fragment to have. I mean, it's going to add more value to Stasis weapons. Things like Headstone, that could be very, very strong. Uther of Chains, getting a rework, no longer grants passive damage resistance when near a Stasis Crystal or frozen target. Now grants a chance to create a Stasis Shard when defeating a target while you have one or more stacks of Frost Armor. Okay, so yeah, they did rework it. So you're no longer going to be getting the damage reduction in that crystal, but if you have Frost Armor, you can make more Frost Armor. So I guess that's pretty cool. So Whisper of Fracture no longer increases the melee energy while surrounded by enemies. Now grants a stack of Frost Armor when you shatter a frozen target with the melee attack. Okay, that's going to be pretty strong pair with conditional finality. The melee energy, I mean, no one really uses this thing, so I think this is going to be better overall. So you could just melee a frozen target, you get a Frost Armor, and you do more damage to a frozen target with your melee. So yeah, that's obviously going to synergize really, really well. Whisper of Torment, grenade energy gains no longer dependent on the current health value. Base grenade energy regeneration amount per incoming damage event increased from 5% to 7%. While you have Frost Armor, energy per damage event increases from 7% to 12%. Okay, so Whisper of Torment, I mean, it's not really like a rework, I feel like, but I guess it's kind of getting a buff. It's no longer dependent on the current health value, so You're always getting 5% to 7%. It's just going to be consistent. And if you have Frost Armor, you get more grenade energy. So this, I feel like, going to be pretty good for grenade builds. Now we have another new one, Whisper of Reversal. While you have Frost Armor, dealing or receiving physical melee, so non-projectile melees, damage slows your victim or attacker. Okay, that could be pretty cool. I don't know how well that's going to be in PvE, I guess against like thralls or something maybe, but you pair this with the feedback fence on Titan, you can jolt and slow enemies. That could be pretty fun. But Stasis Shatter, so they increased the PvE shatter damage to under 400, so that's already pretty good. Fixed an issue where bosses auto-shattering were being hit in 2 instances of shatter damage, so I guess it's kind of a nerf. Fixed an issue where players in an active super would show immune damage flyouts when automatically breaking out of Stasis Freeze. So the main takeaway here is that Shatter is going to do more damage to PvE. But alright, Warlock. Ice Flare Bolts. Increase the maximum number of Seekers created before going on cooldown from 5 to 7. All right, so Ice Flare Bolts got a buff. I mean, I'll take it. I don't really think Ice Flare Bolts needed a buff, but I mean, more Seekers, I will happily take that. Next up is Hunter. Winter Shroud added a new behavior. Slowing targets briefly increases your class ability regeneration rate. Bonus reduced PvP. Now grants PvE damage reduction when activated. Okay, that's pretty nice. I mean, because the whole playstyle of this is trying to use your class ability to slow enemies anyway. So now you're just going to get some regeneration. This is also going to be on Prismatic, so that's going to be very nice to have. I'm sure that's going to be some crazy setups. Touch of Winter, so Glacier Grenade. Add an additional Stasis Crystal to the ring formation. Increases from 6 to 7. Glacier Grenade ring now forms over 0.27 seconds rather than instantly. Okay, so it's going to be a very, very, very little time for it to come up, but you are getting an extra, crystal for more damage, which is nice. So Cold Snap Grenade no longer chains an additional time while Touch of Winter is equipped, so they kind of reduce the chains a little bit, but I think that's more for PvP than it is PvE. Instead, Seekers now duplicate when they freeze the target. Second and third Seeker chains now creating medium and large Stasis Crystal, respectively, rather than every chain creating a small crystal. Okay, yeah, so this is just for the Hunter, since they have a Touch of Winter, but this mainly seems more of like a PvP change than PvE, because if you're running Touch of Winter, you're probably running Dustfield in PvE, but I mean, sure. Although I could foresee that the Seekers duplicating when they freeze a target, I mean, that could potentially be very, very strong in PvE. If they can just keep duplicating and have this chain reaction of freeze, we'll just have to kind of wait and see for that. But then Silence and Squall, so increase the Silence and Squall maximum travel speed by 10%. Nice. The Squall Storm now slows down when any target is within the area effect to reduce instances where it could overshoot the target. That's also nice. Increase the damage and slow tick rate versus PvE combatants by about 40%, bringing its freeze time from approximately 0.8 seconds to 0.5 seconds. So it's just going to do everything a little bit faster. It's going to move a little bit faster, freeze a little bit faster, which I guess inherently could mean more damage because it could get an additional like shatter off while it's still up. And then enemies just stay in it more. So I guess that's pretty cool. But for Titan, we're going to go to Shiver Strike. So increases damage versus PvE combatants by 10%. That's nice. Increases the size of melee target cone by about 50%. That's cool. Increases maximum launch tracking angular speed from 7 degrees per second to 21 degrees per second. So overall, the melee is getting a buff. It's going to be easier to hit now. So do a little bit more damage. So that's nice. I feel like the bottom was more of a PvP thing, but I mean, I guess if you're trying to zip around PvE, you can use it too. Glacier Quake now automatically begins sprinting when the player throttles forward. This is pretty cool because now you just, again, have just, I guess, less downtime when using your super, kind of like the one up here with the Hunter. They just decrease it a little bit so you can just start sprinting automatically. Cryoclasm, remove the sprint time requirement. Cryoclasm now goes on cooldown for 4 seconds after one extended slide. I feel like that's kind of a nerf in a way. I mean, for PvP it is. For PvE, I mean, having to wait 4 seconds to shatter something, I guess it won't be that big of a deal. Because, I mean, you have to wait the grenade cooldown back anyway. I guess your melee on the Titan. So, I mean, yeah. But, I mean, 4 seconds, that's not, I guess, too bad for PvE. All right, so Dominant Lance seems to be getting a lot of changes. Increases thrown Dominant Lance detonation radius from 3.5 meters to 5 meters. That's crazy good. Increases Dominant Lance slam detonation radius from 6.75 to 8. That's also good. Dominant Lance now shatters stasis crystals on direct impact. Okay. Reduces Dominant Lance pickup interaction from 0.2 seconds to 0.1. Increases Dominant Lance pickup interaction radius from 0.7 to 3 meters, matching tangles. Jesus, okay, so in my opinion, Dominant Lance was already pretty decent. They just, again, make this extremely easier to use. You can pick it up easier, and you're going to pick it up faster, but now it can shatter stasis crystals, and it has a larger range for throwing it and slamming it. So, overall, this is going to be very, very strong. Diamond Lance, especially again on Prismatic, it's going to be very, very good. But that seems to be all the changes for stasis. Hunter and Titan got a lot. Warlock really only got one change, but it is a nice buff. I mean, more Ice Bolts. I mean, we'll take that. And then overall shatter damage increase. We got some new things. I think with Frost Armor, some of these changes, I think this is going to have potential to be a lot better than it is now. The only problem with Stasis is that the Stasis supers really aren't the greatest. Behemoth is good for Act Clear. I know in some situations it can, blow up an entire boss if you can get all the crystals on an enemy. With the increased shatter damage, it could be better. On top of that, the Hunter Super, again, I guess it's okay for Ad Clear. We'll just have to wait and see. And maybe Baladors makes a play now. If you get the max Frost Armor stacks, you get the increased shatter damage and the increased super damage of Baladors on the Warlock. I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited to test all these changes out. But Frost Armor, I mean, damage reduction is always just extremely strong in PvE, so that could tip the scale up on Stasis already. But next up, Well of Radiance and Ward of Dawn. The time has come. Are we getting it nerfed, or is Ward getting a buff? We'll see. So, Well of Radiance now grants Radiant for 8 seconds when a player exits the Well of Radiance area. Okay, I mean, that's kind of a buff, but reduces the player's survivability while standing in the Well of Radiance Aura. Reduces healing per second from 100 to 50 health points, matching restoration times 2. Okay, so that's obviously a nerf, but I mean, it's still going to be pretty decent in my opinion. I mean, restoration times 2 already heals you a lot. You're just not going to be invincible in it like you are now. You're probably just going to actually have to play around surviving. Increase the heal on cast from 40 to 30 health points. Okay, that's kind of cool though. I like that they're buffing it in that regard. You can kind of just use it if you're about to die. You're going to just immediately get your health back. Reduces damage resistance versus non-boss combatants from 40% to 20%. Okay, so you're going to be taking a little bit more damage with that, but then reduces damage resistance versus boss combatants from 40% to 10%. Okay, so this is a massive nerf. So if you're only getting 10% damage reduction and on top of only having restoration times 2, the bosses are for sure going to be able to kill you, especially on probably something like contest mode. So you're not just going to be able to do infinitely live at this anymore. But damage resistance versus enemy players is unchanged. Okay, cool. Increase the maximum orb powers for defeating targets while you're in the Well of Radiance from 4 to 5. Okay, so I guess that's a little buff. All right, so they really hammered down on its defensive capabilities. They actually aren't even changing the damage buff that you get from it. So I still think it's going to be pretty good. I think you're just going to actually have to play into being able to survive a little bit more now. Like you're gonna actually, having something like a Dustfoot Hunter to throw a grenade on the well to give you that frost armor for everybody. That could be pretty good. While also having the restoration times 2. I think Well's still gonna be strong with this because a lot of people do use it for the damage. But we'll see what Ward of Dawn has down here. So Armor of Light. So removed Armor and Light Overshield. Ward of Dawn immediately applies a full Void Overshield when it's cast. Okay, so that's obviously kind of a nerf, but I mean, Void Overshield you can play into your subclass, which is cool. Armor of Light now instead grants additional damage resistance to players inside the Ward of Dawn by 30% versus enemy players and 60% versus enemy combatants. All right, so this is going to be nice again for survivability. You get that 60% damage reduction, plus everyone gets a Void Overshield, which also should stack with the damage reduction because Void Overshields give you 50% damage reduction. So I mean, for PvE, that's going to be crazy good. Effective health of players inside of Ward of Dawn Dome remains roughly the same as it was before versus PvE combatants, except now you can play in a Void Overshield. Effective health of players inside of the Ward of Dawn is significantly lower than it was before versus other players in PvP, and cannot be further increased when stacking Bash and Barricades inside the Ward of Dawn to gain additional Overshield layers. Okay, I mean, for PvP, obviously that's going to be huge because Ward of Dawn is one of the strongest things in PvP. But I mainly focus on the PvE stuff. But allies near the Ward of Dawn Dome now have an Overshield trickled on over time, similar to the volume behind a Bash and Barricade. So if you're just near the ward now, you get a Void Overshield. You don't actually have to be in it. That's actually pretty cool too. So if you're in it, you just get one immediately. If you're near it, you just get one ticking up. No longer provides a weapon to light. By default, this behavior has been moved to benefits of Helmet Saint 14. Okay, so Helmet Saint 14's kind of getting a buff in a way. I guess that's kind of cool. You just have to have that now for weapons of light. The Ward of Dawn caster can now generate additional orbs power by defeating enemies with melee attacks in or near their Ward of Dawn dome. Okay, so again, pretty cool. They're clearly playing into the heavy defensive aspect of this, that you're not even getting damage for it anymore unless you run Helm. But I mean, if there's ever a point where you need to just survive, you pop this thing down. I mean, you're gonna live. You're gonna be getting Void Overshields. You're getting this crazy amount of damage reduction. You're gonna make orbs now with it. I think this is a nice little fantasy. I really don't think this is gonna tip the scale to use this in PvE. We'll just have to wait and see. But I mean, Helmet Saint 14, given the damage now, maybe you can see this as as a play, now that Wells also kind of getting nerfed for survivability, you can kind of use the bubble. We're going to go in and out the bubble like we did in Destiny 1, because again, you can't stand near the bubble now to get a Void Overshield. So if you put it behind you, you will just have a Void Overshield taken up at all times, and you can have times 2 restoration if you play them together, but we'll just have to wait and see. All right, now we're moving on to the Arc subclass, which is arguably my favorite subclass. Let's see what they're changing. So Arc Staff, heavy palm strike attacks and heavy air slam blind enemies. Okay, that's already pretty good for the Arc Staff. For hunters, disorienting blow decreases base cooldown from 100 seconds to 90 seconds. It's nice. I mean, most people don't even use disorienting blow because combination blow is pretty much just better. Maybe this will make people use it a little bit more. Tempest Strike add additional damage resistance versus PV combatants when activated, lingering for a short duration after the attack. Okay, so I mean, again, damage reduction is always nice, depending on how long it lasts. That could be good. If you can get your melee back fast to proc things like Tempest Strike, that could be pretty good. Overall, I guess it's nice changes. Arc Hunter is already very strong. I think they're just kind of trying to make the underutilized stuff a little bit better. That's just what it seems to me. So Warlock, Lightning Surge, adds additional damage resistance versus PV combatants when activated, and then again, linger for a short duration. Okay, so Lightning Surge, it's already pretty decent. So now you're just going to get damage reduction, which is nice. Again, this will pair with Prismatic, so that could be very, very good. Ball Lightning increases the final army shape size by 30%. Fix an issue where the army shape was offset upward, higher than the maximum damage range of the projectile's detonation. Okay, so Ball Lightning, it just seems like it's going to be easier to use. They didn't really increase the damage or anything, but the army shape size increased by 30%, so that's cool. Chain Lightning increased the secondary projectile base damage from 27 to 54. So Chain Lightning got a massive buff. I'm going to be honest with you here. I always took Chain Lightning over Ball Lightning anyway because it could jolt enemies, which would stun overload champions. Now Chain Lightning is going to be even better. So Chain Lightning, I think, is going to be the for sure option to take for me, at least, because it's already, I think, very strong in the game. So now it's just even better. Now next up we have Titan. So Thunderclap, add an additional damage resistance when activated. This is in PvE, and then okay, so it's the same as the others. You're just going to get damage reduction while you do it a little bit after. So that's actually really nice for Thunderclap though, because you have to stand still. Increases minimum damage versus PV combatants by 20%. That's awesome. Increases maximum damage by PV combatants by 33%. Increases maximum damage versus players hit by 14%. All right, so that's that's good for PvP, but I mean 20% more damage at the low end, and then if you have a charged max, you get 33% more. That's gonna be crazy good. Thunderclap is already, I feel like, pretty strong. This is just going to make it a lot better to use, and you're getting that damage reduction, which is super, super nice. All right, Knockout seemed to got a rework, but this is going to increase the bonus damage granted by the power melee attacks versus PV combatants from 25 to 50%. So that's obviously very good, but it did get a rework, so no longer unstuns health regeneration on melee defeats. Now instantly grants a chunk of healing that scales with the type of target defeated. All right, so player, you get 30 health, minors, you get 50, major, you get 75, champion, you get 100. So you're now just going to get health depending on the enemy you kill. I guess that is kind of a nerf to it, but I mean overall you're getting 50% more damage now with that melee, which is nice. So I mean for PvE that's going to be pretty good. Next up is Touch of Thunder. So Storm Grenade increases the tracking travel speed when targeting PV combatants between 0.5 seconds and 1 meter per second, increasing with the storm's lifetime. All right, so they're just kind of buffing the tracking of the storm grenades up a little bit. When they nerfed storm grenades back in the day, most people just started running pulse, so maybe this will make people want to run storm a little bit more. We'll just have to wait and see how everything performs. But then Touch of Thunder, so lightning grenade, now applies jolt after the first damage event rather than the prior. So that's definitely a nerf for PvE, but no one's really using these in PvE anyway, let's be honest. But PvP, that's a pretty good change because lightning grenade with the jolt, that could do a lot of damage. Now, Arc Grenades, Storm Grenade increases damage versus PV combatants by 20%. Nice. Touch of Thunder, variance damage is unchanged. So Touch of Thunder, still going to stay the same, but overall 20% more damage is nice. Skip Grenade increases damage versus PV combatants by 15%. Shinobu's Vow Hunter build is going to be coming in strong here, especially with some of the other changes. I think that could be pretty good. Arc Bolt Grenade increases the PV damage by 15%. All right, Lucky Raspberry build is going to be coming in strong here. Storm Grenade's a nice change, but the other two, I mean, I think it could actually be pretty strong if you do play into those Hunter builds. Now, Arc Fragments, Spark of Recharge, ability regeneration bonus now persists until the player returns to full shields rather than deactivating as soon as the shield begins to recharge. Okay, that's actually a pretty strong buff, especially for PvP. For PvE, that's also going to be pretty nice. You just get more abilities, and it lasts longer, so that's nice. Spark of Beacons now also triggers on defeating targets with Arc Power ammo while amplified. So it's not just special now. Spark of Beacons is already pretty strong. And now you can just work with power ammo, so overall a buff. Spark Frequency now also grants 15 weapon stability on a power melee hit in addition to the reload benefit. All right, so this is pretty cool. I mean, more for PvP, but I mean, weapon stability is nice, and that reload speed also nice. But yeah, overall, Arc's got some pretty nice changes. So, all right, so Solar, the top dog here. So starting off with the Hunter, we have lightweight knife. Now it has 2 melee charges by default. Okay, increases the throwing animation by 33%, reduce the pressure time between throws, so both knives can be thrown very quickly. That's cool. And then the additional melee charge does not stack with Phidias Bait due to the exact unique energy recharge behavior. We'll be monitoring this and evaluating how things are playing once things go live. All right, so lightweight knife, getting a buff. You can throw them back to back now. You get 2 charges, increase the throw animation. That could be nice. I don't think you're gonna be using this in PvE really, but for PvP, I mean, hey, this could be pretty fun. But PvE, you're probably still gonna be using knife trick for the most part. Now, knock them down. Reduces internal cooldown on throwing knife refund from 1 second to 0.2 seconds. All right, so knock them down is now just gonna be a little bit better. You could just get your knife back a faster now, which I guess is pretty cool. I mean, it really wasn't that much of an issue before. I guess it's just never gonna mess up now, which is cool. But Golden Gun Marksman, reduce the strength of Orb's power created on precision hit as follows. When hitting non-boss enemies, reduce the strength from 0.75 to 0.5. When hitting boss enemies, reduce from 0.75 to 0.4. When hitting boss enemies with Sardi's equipped, you're going to be reduced from 0.75 to 0.35. Okay, so they're really honing in the potential of shooting your Golden Gun shots, dodging, getting your super back all the way. That strat that a lot of people use. Golden Gun Marksman is still going to be good. They're just reducing the orb from it. This does kind of suck if you are using other builds other than the 6 golden guns, but I mean overall, I mean it's still going to be good. This changes really only going to affect that 6 golden gun thing. I guess people just won't have the super as much with other builds, unfortunately. But Titan, so Consecration slam attack now shatter stasis crystals. Nice. Ignitions generated by Consecration now deal 20% additional damage. That's also nice. Fix an issue where Consecration slams attack was sometimes unable to damage floating combatants while they were grounded. Okay, that's also nice. Fix an issue where Consecration intended PvE damage resistance was not being applied. All right, so Consecration overall, we're getting some quality of life buffs. We're doing 20% more damage with Ignite. We can now hit floating targets that are on the ground. We can also now, shatter stasis crystals. And on top of that, we also get that damage resistance. Consecration is already super strong paired with Pyrogales. Very happy to see these changes. But some other changes. Hammer of Soul increases projectile submunitions count when Soul Invictus is not equipped as follows. So if the projectile detonates within the 0.7 seconds of lifetime, it now creates 4 shrapnel submissions from 3. If the projectile now detonates after the 0.7 seconds of his lifetime, it now creates 6 up from 5. And then when Soul Invictus is equipped, only 3 shrapnel submunitions are created regardless of flight time. Shrapnel submunitions now deal additional damage when Soul Invictus is not equipped, with the damage increasing after the first 0.7 seconds of the projectile's lifetime. All right, so now Hammer of Soul is just going to be pretty decent without Soul Invictus equipped. They're probably doing this for Prismatic, if I had to guess, since you can't really take it on the Prismatic subclass. But, overall, I mean, Hammer of Soul is kind of getting a buff now, so I guess that's nice. Then Swarm Grenade. Swarm Grenade increase the tracking shape size from 4 to 6 meters, increase the linger duration from 7 to 8 seconds to 10 to 11 seconds, and increases damage versus PV combatants by 20%. Swarm Grenade was probably one of the worst grenades in the game, let's be honest. So now we're getting more damage. The tracking is going to be better, and it's going to last longer. So Swarm Grenades, maybe I'll make a play now. Maybe there's going to be like a Swarm Grenade exotic, and you make a build around it. We'll see. But Swarm Grenade's good. I mean, the changes for Solar, they honestly seem more buffs than nerfs, which is nice. And nothing for Warlock got changed other than Well, which is a pretty massive one. That its own section. But now let's move on to Void. Start off, we have the Hunter. So Snare Bomb increases linear duration of smoke detonation from 3 seconds to 5 seconds. Now applies a small damage over time to enemies in the smoke, which increases in strength the longer they remain in the smoke. Okay, so Snare Bomb's getting a little buff. It already weakens enemies, which is nice, so that's going to be really cool to have. This is also going to be on Prismatic. Trapper's Ambush increases the linear duration of the smoke after detonation from 0.5 seconds to 6. Okay, so that's nice. Now applies Snare Bomb's damage over time. Okay, fix an issue with Trapper's Ambush smoke effects could be obstructed by ground geometry. All right, so Trapper's Ambush, again, kind of getting a buff. It's going to last longer. It can do the Snare Bomb damage. Overall, both of those are nice. Stylus Executioner. Stylus Executioner weaken effect can now be applied by glaive melee attacks. Okay, so just a nice little quality of life update. Maybe glaive builds are going to be strong now with this. we'll have to see, but I mean, that's a nice little change. So Titan. Shield Throw increases maximum bounce count from 4 to 5, increases maximum lifetime from 3 to 4, now increases its tracking shape size and strength after each bounce, increasing its ability to consistently find a new target. Slightly increased gravity and decreased thrust speed with each bounce increases the damage versus PV by 20%. Okay, so this is super nice for shield throw, especially if you are pairing it with the second shield exotic, so you can weaken enemies and stuff. This is going to be crazy good. You can bounce more. It lasts longer. The tracking is going to be a whole lot better. It's terrible now. And it also is going to increase the speed on each bounce, and it does more damage. I mean, shield throw got a massive buff here. We love to see that. Now, offensive bulwark can now only extend Void Overshield's timer to its normal maximum duration to prevent an issue where players get into a bad timer state. Now regenerates a small portion of your active Void Overshield with each melee defeat. All right, so with offensive bulwark, you're now just going to get some Void Overshields when you get melee defeats down, which is nice. And they did nerf the timer, but I mean, it's still going to be pretty good. But all right, moving on to Warlock now. Chaos Accelerant. So charge magnetic grenades. So this is going to be the handheld supernova. So increases maximum intensity of physics knockback impulse by 10%, increases damage by PV combatants by 20%. Now passively decreases your magnetic grenade cooldown by 10% while Chaos Accelerant is equipped. Okay, so handheld supernova is just going to be a little bit better, knocks enemies back more, does more damage, and it has a smaller cooldown. So that's pretty cool. Now pocket singularity increases the detonation damage versus PV combatants by about 50%. Okay, so that's good because pocket singularity was absolute trash in PvE. So now it does 50% more damage, so that's super nice. Nova Bomb, the Cataclysm variant, increases the Seeker count from 4 to 6. Fixed an issue where the Seekers could impact the environment on creation. All right, so that's nice. Now the Seekers should actually be able to do damage, and you have more Seekers for more damage. Vortex variant increases Vortex linger duration from 7 seconds to 10 seconds. Fix an issue where the linger visual effects or is shutting off early. All right, so now it's just consistent. It lasts a little bit longer. I still think Cataclysm is going to be the way to go for damage now that you get more Seekers as well. So yeah, I mean, maybe Nova Bomb is going to be, a actual good DPS super now. We'll just have to wait and see. I don't know if the extra Seekers provided is going to do a whole bunch, but I am excited to try it out. And I also will try out the Vortex as well, but I think Cataclysm will still be the way to go. Now, moving on to Strand, there's definitely going to be a Wolf of Mel nerf in here. It has to. Threat of Warding. Okay, so Threat of Warding. Reduce Wolf Melt duration of Orb of Power. Pick up from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. So Threat of Warding already, yeah, I mean, that's getting kind of, it's not gutted, but I mean, it's definitely going to be a lot less weaker. Now, moving on to Hunter, we have Ensnaring Slam. The detonation volume versus enemy players is now a cylinder with a 6.5 meter radius rather than a sphere with an 8 meter radius. The result is fewer instances of victims correctly attempted to counterplay by jumping up being caught in the Ensnaring Slam. Detonation higher up in the air. Okay, so this is mainly for PvP. I guess it kind of changes for PvE, but I mean, it probably won't change much of PvE. It's going to be pretty similar. Next up is Threaded Spike. Reduces damage versus enemy players from 79 to 70. Catching your Threaded Spike no longer breaks invisibility. All right, I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, they reduce the damage of Threaded Spike, but again, that's mainly for PvP because it's enemy players. I mean, catching your Threaded Spike no longer breaks you invisible. Something like Assassin's Cowl, that's going to be nice if you do build into that for PvE. Warlock, Weaver's Call added a new behavior. Defeating a target with a strain damage now has a chance to generate a perch threatling. Okay, that's cool. With a higher chance of generation for defeating more powerful targets. This damage can be from any source, including other threatlings. All right, nice. Weaver's Call, notoriously one of the kind of worst strain aspects. I mean, it wasn't bad. It just mainly was to send out your threatlings. This is actually going to give it a very, very strong behavior, and this being on prismatic now, I think it's going to be pretty strong. Threatening build is about to get even better. Very excited for this change. Very, very excited to play around with that. Now, Grapple, Tangles, and Melee. So this is probably going to be a lot. Grapple, Tangles. No longer fully refresh the duration when grapple to. That's kind of sad, but now increases the duration by a maximum of 5 seconds per grapple, reducing a maximum of 1 second added after 5 consecutive grapples to the same grapple tangle. All right, so they're really playing into, they want to stop the Titan grapple melee shenanigans that go on. Now the grapple tangle will eventually go away. It just won't last forever. You can't just keep it up, and it will eventually go down to 1 second. So we'll have diminishing returns. But I mean, I still think it's going to be pretty decent, but overall, I mean, yeah, that's obviously a nerf. But Titan, so Into the Fray, reduces in melee energy regeneration scale from 4x to 3x PvE activities unchanged PvP. So Into the Fray, you're just getting less melee energy now, again, to really try to hone in that melee strain build. But Banner of War reduces maximum timer from 30 seconds to 24 seconds. Melee, glaive melee, and super damage bonuses now have diminishing returns with sense ups as follows. Melee bonus decrease from 1.4x to 1.15x. Glaive melee bonus decrease from 1.25x to 1.125x. Super bonuses decrease from 1.4x to 1.2x. Then melee and glaive melee damage bonuses now have diminished terms with Wormgod's Caress 2. So melee bonuses decrease from 1.4x to 1.1x based on stat count. Glaive melee bonuses decrease from 1.4x to 1.05x based on stat count. So overall, every single bit of melee that you can run with Syntheseps or Wormgods with Banner War now is just getting drastically decreased. It'll probably still be pretty decent if we're being honest, but it's just not going to be the powerhouse that it is right now. It's going to be more in line, it seems like. The Glaive's Catch and Stray is a little crazy because I don't think anyone is using Glaive builds with it, but I mean, hey, I guess they had to tone it back if they knew something was cooking. But I mean, overall, I mean, yeah, this is obviously a nerf, especially with Into the Fray and the grapple change. They really don't want you meleeing a boss like crazy. But then for Frenzy Blade, reduce the forward offset for melee lunge target from 0.4 to 0.18 meters. All right, so in this case, it just seems like Frenzy Blade is going to make it easier to hit enemies at close ranges. So I guess that's kind of a buff, but yeah, this melee playstyle for the Titan is for sure getting nerfed a lot. It's still going to be good, though. I still think it's going to be strong. It's just not going to be able to, you know, 1v1 a boss on the master and come out on top with little to no damage done to you pretty much at all. But conclusion, so that's everything we have for now. We're extremely excited to see the next era of Destiny 2 sandbox unfolds after the launch of the final shape, and we'll be closely monitoring the impact of these changes. As always, keep the feedback coming, and we'll see you next time. All right, so that's pretty much everything. I'll give you my conclusion. Obviously, we'll just start from the bottom going up. Kind of already talked about the Titan. It's still going to be good. But it's definitely getting nerfed. You're not going to be 1v1 bosses out here and just living and getting fast time kills. Warlock for Strand, going to be crazy good. Weaver's Call, this is a very, very nice buff, not only for Prismatic, but also for Strand itself. Threaded Spike, I mean, that's a pretty cool interaction, I guess, for Assassin's Cowl. You know, all this is mainly for PvP, though. Threat of Warding is getting a big nerf. I mean, 5 seconds is still going to be good. I think most people are still going to run it, but you're just not going to have permanent Wolf and Melt all the time now. But then next up with Void, Nova Bomb's getting buff. Always good. Nova Bomb is pretty bad. Pocket Singularity getting a buff. Huge Chaos Accelerant. The handheld Supernova is, you know, going to be a lot better now, which is good. Handheld Super, that's already pretty good, too. I'm going to mind you. It's already a pretty decent build, so now it's just going to be better. Can't wait to build craft around that. Offensive Bulwark, kind of getting a nerf slash buff. Shield Throw on top of that, getting a huge buff. Shield Throw is going to be crazy, crazy good now if you build into it. Hunter, Snare Bomb, Trapper's Ambush, getting some nice little buffs. It can do some damage now, which is cool. Silence Executioner, and some quality of life buffs as well. Overall, Void subclass changes is good. Storm Grenade getting a buff is huge. On top of that, Titan Consecration is getting some quality of life changes and some more damage. Very, very huge. Hammer Soul is getting changed, mainly for Prismatic, though, just so it can actually do well without having to run Solar. On top of that, Golden Gun, we're not going to be having the instant 6-team Golden Guns anymore, but you know, it's still going to be good, though. Just not that specific playstyle. And then again, for Lightweight Knife, that's a nice change. I feel like this is more for PvP than PvE, but Knock them down, I guess that's also a pretty nice change, so you can make it easier to use. But then for Arc, I mean, Spark of Frequency, like Stability, that's mainly for PvP. I guess it's okay. Beacons, you know, that's nice. That triggers on power ammos. Recharge, this one's super nice, actually. You know, you're going to get that ability generation once your shields are fully recharged. So if you can find a way to keep your shield down, you know, that you're just gonna have this permanently. Your stuff recharges a lot faster when this is active. Now for the arc grenades, I mean, storm grenade, I mean, these are all nice. You just get more damage. More damage is always nice. Some builds like Shinobu's probably gonna be pretty crazy. Then, you know, Touch of Thunder for PvP, I guess that's a pretty good change. Storm Grenade, you know, a little bit better with Touch of Thunder now. That's obviously pretty good. Knockout, it's kind of got a nerf and buff. More damage, you just get less health now. I mean, overall, this is still a pretty good change. More damage is always nice. And then Thunderclap, you love these changes. Super good quality of life, super good damage increases. So Thunderclap going to be very, very fun to use in PvE now. Chain Lightning, you know, this is already really good in my opinion, so we're now just getting a lot more damage with it. Very, very strong. Really excited for this. Lightning Surge, again, damage reduction, that's nice. Ball Lightning, I mean, I feel like that's mainly more for PvP in my opinion, but damage reduction for Lightning Surge is going to be crazy good with Prismatic builds. Then the Arc Staff, blinding enemies, soaring to below, having a fast cooldown. Tempest Strike, and being able to give damage reduction. I think you're going to see some new Archon builds come out with some of this stuff. Then moving on to Well and Bubble. I mean, Bubble is just really playing into the power fantasy of defensive, and then you can run Helm for a damage boost. I think these are good changes. I don't really think it's going to move much in PvE, in my opinion. I mean, maybe now that you get stuff while outside or near the Ward of Dawn, if Helm gives you the damage buff while you're near the Ward of Dawn, kind of like this other stuff does, then maybe I could see it potentially being very good. But for PvP, these are great changes. Now, Well of Radiance, massive nerf to the healing. They actually didn't touch its damage at all, so I still think Well is going to be very good. You're now just going to have to run the question, do you want to buff your whole team by 25%, or do you want to take another damage super, something like that, or even the new Warlock super that's coming out? Well, we'll just have to see how that plays out. But the Well aspect, the healing aspect, still going to be good, but it is not going to make you invincible anymore. You're definitely going to have to play smart inside of it. And then for Stasis, Karak class, I'm kind of getting a little of a nerf, still going to be good. Diamond Land's getting massive buffs out here. It's going to be crazy strong now. Shiver Strike, you know, it's going to be just nice little quality of life changes. Glacial Quake, you know, you can sprint faster now or immediately, so that's nice. Solid Squall, some quality of life buffs. It's just easier to use, gonna freeze some more. With Touch of Winter, Glacier Grenade, you know, it's getting some buffs, getting additional crystal, which is nice. The Cold Snap's getting nerfed, but I still think this is actually gonna be pretty strong in PvE if the stuff can duplicate in PvE on every single enemy. And then for Winter Shroud, this is nice because you're going to get your class ability back. This is going to be on Prismatic. Warlock, Icer Bolts, that's getting a buff. That's awesome. It was already very good. Then Stage Shatter is getting a buff for damage. Again, very good. Then we're getting 2 new fragments. Obviously, very good. A lot of these are playing into Frost Armor, which is nice. Some of the other ones are getting reworked again to mainly play into Frost Armor. So again, very nice. And then things like Runal Grass, Baladors, again, were really changed the stuff. They really want us to play into Frost Armor, which is cool. And then Frost Armor on its own, again, the damage reduction is nice. The Harvest aspects are getting changed. Once again, Shocker to play into Frost Armor. And then again, Frost Armor is a really main selling point for Stasis now, which I think is going to be good because damage reduction is always good. But that is pretty much everything. I think a lot of these changes are very good. A lot of them are buffs. There aren't that many nerfs in here other than something like Well, but I think we all saw that coming. But yeah, pretty much everything in here is a W in my opinion. I'm definitely excited to try to start build crafting with some of this stuff. Prismatic's going to have a ton of builds. It seems like they're really focusing on making the other subclasses still viable as well, which is nice. So they're going to have a ton of builds. It's going to be a lot of work when this DLC comes out, and I'm excited to start putting everything together for y'all. But anyways, though, I hope you all enjoy my opinions, insights, or just reading over it with me. I know I don't normally do videos like this, so I really hope you all enjoyed it. I'm a little late to the party, but if you were interested in my opinion, again, I really hope you enjoyed it. I think there is an exotic armor one coming out tomorrow. I will probably do as well because those are obviously also heavily focused on build crafting. So yeah, anyways though, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Peace.